I got the call about Priya's affair while I was still in the hospital bed. 3 years of marriage ended with a poorly timed text from my friend Raj. My name is Aryan, 36 years old, senior software engineer at TechVision. I'd been in the hospital for 2 months after a serious car accident when Priya decided she was done waiting. The message from Raj was simple. Bye. I saw Priya with her boss Vikram at Marriott last night. They weren't discussing work. I read the message twice, put my phone down, adjusted my hospital bed, and stared at the ceiling. I said nothing to the nurse who came to check my vitals. When I picked up my phone again, I replied with 2 words, "Thank you." That was it. No argument, no begging, no threats. Dr. Sharma noticed something was wrong during his rounds. "Everything all right, Mr. Aryan?" he asked, checking my chart. "Yes," I said. "Just some news from home." He nodded, and that was the end of it. Doctors know when to leave things alone. Truth is, I wasn't surprised. Before the accident, things had changed. Small things. Priya stopped asking about my projects, started working late at the marketing firm where she was brand manager, started going to expensive restaurants I'd never heard of. New clothes, new friends I never met, new passwords on her phone. I didn't confront her, didn't check her messages or follow her around. That's not who I am. But I wasn't blind either. So I made some quiet moves of my own. Nothing dramatic, just precautions. I secured important documents in a digital vault: birth certificate, marriage license, property papers with my investments clearly marked. I also opened a separate account and started diverting part of my salary there. Not enough that she'd notice, but enough that I wouldn't be starting from zero if things went south. The day before my accident, she kissed me goodbye at our apartment door and said, "Drive safely. Okay?" Her eyes were distant, like she was saying goodbye to a tenant, not a husband heading to an important client meeting. I should have known then, but part of me still hoped I was wrong. I wasn't. What she didn't know was that I'd prepared for this moment. And what she didn't understand was that I never start fights, but I do finish them. I met Priya at a tech conference in 2020. I was presenting a paper on blockchain security, staying at the venue hotel. She was handling marketing for the event. We were married 6 months later. Priya used to say she was proud of my technical expertise, though she never quite understood it. Her father was a bank executive, her brother a corporate lawyer. No tech people in her family. She'd ask when I was going to move up to management, not realizing that after 12 years of coding, this was my career, not just a stepping stone. We bought our apartment in 2021. Nothing extravagant, but in a good locality. My name was the only one on the mortgage since I made the down payment from my pre-marriage savings, but I added her to the property papers because that's what married people do: share things. My parents died before I met Priya: father from kidney failure, mother from stroke 2 years later. They left me some investments, not a fortune, but enough that Priya and I could furnish our home nicely and still have a cushion. I always lived frugally, but Priya had grander tastes that seemed to grow with time. In 2022, things started changing. Subtle at first. Priya got irritated when I called during her networking events, started talking about how her colleague Mira had divorced her husband and was living her best life now, started making comments about how we didn't really connect on an intellectual level anymore. I suggested counseling. She said we were fine, just going through a phase. Then came the late nights at work, the weekends away with clients, the designer clothes, the expensive perfume. I should have confronted her, but that's not how I handle things. Never have been. My father taught me to think before I speak, to be sure before I act. So I watched and prepared quietly because my instincts told me something was coming. 3 weeks after getting Raj's message, I was sitting in my hospital bed when my phone buzzed. A notification from our bank app. Another withdrawal. Indian rupee 4250,000, almost everything that was left in our joint account. I set my water glass down and opened the app. The balance was down to 1,247 Indian rupees. Our savings of Indian rupee 65,000,000 we'd built over years was gone, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. The nurse checking my phone noticed my expression. Bad news. I locked my phone. Just some account stuff. That night, I called our bank from my hospital room. Turns out Priya had been moving money for weeks, small amounts at first, then larger ones. The big transfers started the day after my accident. I hung up and sat in silence for a long time, watching other patients with their visiting families. Normal life happening all around me while mine was burning down. That's when Dr. Sharma found me during his evening rounds. "Heard from the nurse that you seemed upset earlier," he said. "Anything I can help with?" I don't usually share personal problems, but Dr. Sharma had literally saved my life after the accident. I trusted him. "My wife emptied our accounts and moved in with her boss while I was recovering," I said. "Planning divorce papers any day now." Dr. Sharma didn't give me the usual, "I'm sorry," or "That's rough," or "You'll find someone better." He just asked, "What's your plan?" "Not sure yet," I said. He nodded. "Let me know if you need anything." That night I couldn't sleep. I pulled out my laptop and logged into our home security system, something Priya probably forgot I could access remotely. The cameras showed a luxury car I'd never seen before in our parking spot. A man I recognized from company parties walking our dog, using my coffee mug, wearing my favorite sweatshirt. And there was Priya, laughing in the kitchen. I'd renovated myself during my last vacation. Something shifted inside me. Not anger exactly, something colder, clearer. I closed the laptop and pulled out my phone, made a list: call Ajay, law school friend, check property papers, contact HR about emergency medical leave extension, review investment portfolio document Priya mentioned casually last year, check security on my tech patents and startup shares. I didn't feel sad anymore. I didn't even feel angry. I felt focused, like I was planning a project. This wasn't about emotion now. This was about strategy. At 5 a.m., before my physical therapy session, I sent an email to Ajay with the subject line, "Need legal help, discreet and urgent." His reply came an hour later, "Call me. Secure line only." When I hung up from that call, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to threaten. I didn't even need to confront her. I just needed to wait, watch, and let her own actions become the trap point. 2 months later, I was discharged from the hospital. I didn't tell Priya I was out, didn't call, didn't text. Just checked into a hotel in a different part of the city and contacted Ajay. We met at a quiet cafe far from my usual haunts. "You look better," he said, sliding into the booth. "Feel better too," I replied. Ajay handed me a folder. Everything we discussed: apartment papers, bank statements, investment records. And this, he pulled out a separate document. "Found something interesting when I was digging into your investments." It was a share transfer application with my signature on it, except it wasn't my signature, not quite. Someone had tried to copy it but missed details. The middle initial was wrong, and the stroke pattern wasn't mine. "Priya did this?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Ajay nodded. 2 months ago. Used it to transfer your startup shares worth 4.5 Indian rupees crore. Your signature is required since these were your pre-marriage assets. Forge my signature, take my shares, clean out our accounts, and leave me while I'm in a hospital bed, I said. "Busy woman." "It gets better," Ajay said. She listed her boss Vikram as the transfer recipient. And guess what? His company, Market Boost, is in financial trouble. 3 quarters of declining revenue, 2 failed product launches. They needed a cash infusion. I took a deep breath. "What are my options?" "Several," Ajay said. "But first, you need to decide what you want." I thought about it. "I want what's legally mine, and I want them to understand consequences." Ajay smiled. "Then here's what we do." The next day, I drove past our apartment. Vikram's car was gone, but Priya's was in the parking lot. I watched for a while, thought about going up, confronting her, but that wasn't the plan. Instead, I drove to the investment firm, met with the compliance officer who had processed the share transfer, showed him my ID, showed him the real signature on my passport, showed him the forged documents. His face went pale. "I'll need to report this immediately." "I understand," I said. "I've already filed a police report." That night, I got a text from Priya. "Who have you been talking to at Growth Cap Investments?" Vikram said someone was asking questions. I didn't respond. The next day, I went to the corporate registry office, filed paperwork contesting the share transfer due to fraud. Registered formal notice that no changes to my investment portfolio could be made without my verified presence. 2 days later, Priya called. I let it go to voicemail. Arian, we need to talk. The investment firm called about the shares. What are you doing? If this is about us, we can discuss it like adults. Like adults. The same phrase she'd probably use in her divorce filing. I still didn't respond. Ajay called that afternoon. They froze the transferred shares pending investigation. And there's more, your wife's boyfriend has been using your digital signature for company approvals, right? The one from your tech patents? Yes. Well, the cybercrime unit found it was used to approve some questionable financial statements for Market Boost last quarter. Securities Commission is investigating. Good, I said. He also had some interesting communications on the company server. Emails discussing how to leverage the accident situation to gain control of your assets and technology. I closed my eyes. They planned this. Looks that way. The authorities are investigating. I hung up and sat on the edge of the hotel bed. This was getting bigger than I'd expected. Part of me wanted to call Priya, warn her, old habits. But then I remembered the security camera footage, my home, my dog, my life, given away like it meant nothing. No. This was the path now. I couldn't turn back, and honestly, I didn't want to. I met with the financial fraud investigator the next morning. Name was Kana, serious woman with sharp eyes and faster typing. This happens more often than you'd think, she said, arranging documents across her desk. Spouse incapacitated, other spouse sees an opportunity. What happens now? I asked. We've frozen the shares from the fraudulent transfer, but there's a problem. Some of the assets have already been leveraged, taken loans against. How much? About half. 2.1 Indian rupees crore. I leaned forward. Where did it go? Kana hesitated. I'm not supposed to share that information. My shares, my name forged, my assets stolen. She nodded slowly, then turned her computer screen toward me. These are the transfers out of the Market Boost account. I scanned the list, multiple transfers to someone named Elevate Ventures. Not Vikram directly, someone else I'd never heard of. Who's Elevate Ventures? I asked. Kana shrugged. Not my department, but you should ask your lawyer to subpoena these records. I called Ajay as soon as I left the office. Elevate Ventures, he repeated. Let me run a check. An hour later, he called back. Got it. Elevate Ventures is a shell company that purchases distressed tech firms. Specializes in quick takeovers, asset stripping. She was helping him save his failing company with my money, I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. Looks that way. The deposits were probably to secure financing for a larger deal. But here's where it gets interesting. Elevate has done business with Vikram Malhotra before. 3 deals in the past 2 years. I sat down on a park bench trying to process this. So this wasn't just Priya leaving me for some rich guy. This was, what, a planned operation. Maybe, Ajay said carefully. I did some digging into Vikram Malhotra. He has a pattern, gets involved with women in key financial positions or with valuable connections. 3 cases I found. Each time, the woman's assets or connections get leveraged for his business interests. Then he moves on. And Priya? She knew about this. Hard to say. Maybe she's a victim too. Or maybe she's in on it. I rubbed my face. This wasn't just about Priya betraying me anymore. This was something bigger, something calculated. What do we do? I asked. I've already contacted the Securities Exchange Board. This crosses into securities fraud, involves manipulating company valuations. They're interested. That night, I sat in my hotel room with a cup of tea, thinking about everything, wondering if Priya had been playing me our entire marriage or if she'd gotten swept up in Vikram's scheme, wondering if it even mattered. My phone buzzed. Priya again. Arian, please call me. The investment firm is saying something about fraud and Vikram's office was visited by SEBI officers. I don't understand what's happening. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed, Who is Elevate Ventures? 3 dots appeared as she started typing, then stopped. Started again, stopped. Finally, I don't know what you're talking about. 2.1 Indian rupees crore. Multiple transfers. Company acquisition plans. I wrote. No response for 10 minutes. Then, it's not what you think. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, Ajay called. SEBI wants to meet. They've been investigating Malhotra's companies for months. You're not the first victim, but you might be the case that breaks it open. For the first time since getting that message in the hospital, I felt something close to satisfaction, not because my marriage was over, but because the truth was finally coming out. I met with the SEBI investigators at their office. Sharma and Kapoor recorded my statement, took copies of all the documents Ajay and I had gathered. Your case helps establish a pattern, Sharma explained. Shows intent, organization. Makes it market manipulation rather than isolated incidents. What about Priya? I asked. My wife, ex-wife. The investigators exchanged looks. We're still determining her level of involvement, Kapoor said carefully. Did she ever mention financial difficulties at Market Boost? Pressure to access your technology or investments? I thought back. She kept saying I was sitting on valuable assets that could be put to better use. That I should think bigger about my startup shares. I didn't see the need, my investments were performing well. Sharma made a note. When did that start? About 6 months ago. Around the time she must have met Vikram. And the share transfer? Kapoor asked. Never discussed it with me. She forged my signature while I was in the hospital. They asked more questions, took more notes. When we finished, Sharma handed me his card. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, don't confront your wife or Malhotra. We need to build this case carefully. I nodded. Understood. That evening, I drove to our apartment complex again, parked across the street. Vikram's car was back, Priya's was gone. My phone buzzed. Text from Priya, we need to talk in person. Meet me at City Center Mall tomorrow, 2 p.m. I showed the text to Ajay over breakfast the next day. Don't go, he advised. Nothing good can come from talking to her right now. I won't, I said. But I want to know what she's doing today while she thinks I'm meeting her. We drove to our apartment at 1:30 p.m., parked across the street. At 1:45, Priya came out, got in her car, and drove away, heading toward the mall. Now what? Ajay asked. Now we wait, I said. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. Corporate logo on the door, Elevate Ventures. Vikram came out to greet the visitor, they talked in the parking lot, then went inside. Should we follow them? Ajay asked. I shook my head. No need. I installed security cameras last year, interior and exterior. They upload to cloud storage. Ajay smiled. You didn't mention that before. Never came up, I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the security app and angled the screen so Ajay could see. Vikram and the visitor were in our living room. The man was reviewing documents. Vikram was pointing at figures on a laptop screen. I turned up the volume. Should close by the end of the month, the man was saying. I've got investors lined up already. Cash deal, as usual. How much? Vikram asked. 22 crore for the technology patents. We list the company valuation at 30, they offer 22, everybody's happy. What about the husband? I heard he's causing trouble. The man waved dismissively. Tech guys are all the same. They make noise, but they're not business people. He'll take a settlement to make it go away. I turned to Ajay. You getting this? He was already recording the feed on his phone. Every word. I forwarded the security feed access to Sharma with a short message, happening now. 30 minutes later, our apartment complex was surrounded by SEBI and police vehicles. I watched from across the street as officers led the Elevate Ventures executive and Vikram out in handcuffs. My phone rang. Sharma. Got them on tape discussing the securities fraud scheme, he said. Plus conspiracy, forgery, and attempting to sell intellectual property under false pretenses. We're going to need a formal statement from you. Of course, I said. And Mr. Aryan, your wife just arrived at the scene. She's distressed. I looked across the street. Priya was standing in the parking lot, hands over her mouth, watching as officers carried boxes of documents from our apartment. What happens to her? I asked. That depends, Sharma said. On what? On what she knew. And on what you want. I watched Priya for a long moment. 3 years of marriage, good years at the beginning, before whatever this had become. I just want what's right, I said finally. The securities fraud case moved quickly. Vikram and the Elevate executive both took plea deals, implicating each other and several other conspirators in what turned out to be a multi-state operation targeting tech entrepreneurs with valuable patents. Priya maintained she knew nothing about the larger scheme, said Vikram had convinced her I was hiding assets, planning to leave her with nothing, said the share transfer was his idea, she'd just gone along with it. Maybe that was true, maybe it wasn't. Either way, she agreed to a settlement, full restitution of the stolen funds, forfeiture of any claim to the apartment or my company shares, a signed confession about the forgery. In exchange, I didn't press charges. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. No fault, clean break, all things considered. On the day the last paperwork was signed, I got a call from Sharma. Vikram Malhotra was sentenced today. 5 years for securities fraud, conspiracy, and forgery. The Elevate executive got 7. Thought you'd want to know. Thank you, I said. There's something else, he added. We found evidence they've done this to 8 other tech entrepreneurs. Your case helped us build the pattern. Those innovators might get their assets back because of you. After we hung up, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment watching the sunset, thinking about those other entrepreneurs, other men and women who built something valuable only to have it stolen through manipulation and fraud that I hadn't planned on being the one to bring down Vikram's operation. I just wanted what was mine. But sometimes things work out in ways you don't expect. My phone buzzed. Text from Priya. I never meant for things to end this way. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. 6 months later, I attended an industry conference. A venture capital firm was presenting their latest acquisition. Market Boost, Vikram's now-defunct company, purchased in a distress sale. The controlling stake had been acquired by my own startup, which had grown exponentially since the case made headlines. The irony wasn't lost on me. I now owned the company of the man who tried to steal everything from me. Sometimes I thought about Priya, wondered where she ended up. Ajay heard she'd moved back to her hometown, working at a smaller marketing agency. Starting over, I guess that I didn't hate her anymore. Didn't much feel anything about her, to be honest. She'd made her choices, and so had I. One evening, I got an email from a woman in Bangalore. Her husband was a software developer whose patents had been targeted by Vikram and Elevate Ventures. The SEBI had given her my contact as part of the case. You don't know me, she wrote, but you saved our life's work by fighting back when it would have been easier to just walk away. I read it twice, then saved it to my important folder. Some days, when the pressure got too intense or the memories too sharp, I'd look at that email and remember that something good had come from all of it. Last I heard, Vikram was still in prison. The justice system worked, for once. As for me, I was finding my way forward one quiet day at a time, building something new, something that couldn't be stolen or forged or betrayed. Something that was just mine. 6 months later, my story took an unexpected turn. Market Boost, Vikram's company, which I now controlled through my startup acquisition, was reaching new heights. One day, I was sitting in my office when my secretary announced, "Sir, there's a visitor outside. She wants to meet you." When I stepped out, it was Priya, standing there, a bit thinner, somewhat troubled. We looked at each other. Her eyes held regret. Mine, only peace. "Can we talk?" she asked. I led her to my cabin. "Go ahead. I just wanted to say that, I'm sorry," she said. "I never thought Vikram would be that kind of person. He convinced me that you—" "It doesn't matter now," I said. "What's done is done." She nodded. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine. In fact, better than ever. I heard the company is doing really well under your leadership." "Yes. Life is strange, isn't it? The very thing Vikram tried to take from me is now mine. And he's in prison." Priya lowered her eyes. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness or to ask for anything. I just wanted to say I understand now what I threw away." I looked at her for a long moment. There was a time when I would have given anything to hear those words. Now, they were just words. "I wish you well, Priya," I said finally. "I really do." As she turned to leave, she paused at the door. "The new company logo. It's good. Very fitting." I smiled slightly. The new Market Boost logo featured a phoenix rising from ashes, symbolic of my own journey from hospital bed to company owner. After she left, I walked to the window of my corner office, looking out at the city skyline. My phone buzzed with a message from my development team. Our newest patent had been approved. Life was moving forward. Sometimes the best revenge isn't plotting or scheming. It's simply surviving, rebuilding, and thriving. In buying their company, I hadn't just acquired assets and market share. I had reclaimed my story.